How we doing, everybody? UFC Thoughts here, and today I'm going to be going over my picks and breakdown for every fight on UFC Vegas 98, Royval vs. Taira on October 12th, 2024. Timestamps in the comments below. Let's get right into it with the first fight of 13. We start with Clayton Carpenter versus Lucas Rocha. This one's tricky. I'm gonna go with Clayton Carpenter on this one, but this can backfire on me really bad. Lucas and Clayton both haven't fought in a while. Lucas's last fight was last October. Clayton's last fight was last February. He's gotten injured. He was supposed to fight Steve Erceg. But I think Lucas Rocha showed a really big hole in his game on his Contender Series fight, which is the grappling. And the thing is, both of them actually kind of showed it. Clayton got controlled for a little bit by Juan Camilo. But Lucas got controlled in the clinch and on the ground for like 4 minutes of that first round. And he got his back taken. He was almost subbed by Davey Bittencourt. I think Clayton Carpenter has some slick jiu-jitsu. He trains out of the MMA lab, so you know he's around good guys. That's Sean O'Malley, Mario Batista, Carl. Why am I blanking on his fucking name? The Matrix. Fucking Kyler Phillips, not Carl. Fucking Carl, what the fuck? Kyler Phillips, and then like Marcus McGee. Lucas, 17-1. He's one of these dudes who comes in with a highly inflated resume, not resume, but record. 17-1. You see that, you're like, oh my god, automatically you think that this guy's going to be all that. And to be honest, I'm not really impressed with either of these dudes' striking skill sets. I think that Clayton Carpenter, he strikes like how a wrestler strikes. He's very tight and compact, and he unloads on heavy shots. And I think both of these guys are honestly shockingly slow for their respective divisions for flyweight. And then Lucas fought at bantamweight on the Contender Series. He looked pretty slow at bantamweight, so I don't know what he's going to look like cutting even more weight. I don't know if he took that fight on short notice or not. But, yeah, I think that both of these guys, I think that Clayton Carpenter is going to be able to take down and control Lucas Rocha for a little bit. And, Clayton's been to decision 3 times in his career. It's not like it's something new to him. His fight with Juan Camilo, even though he did get controlled for about 2 minutes in that first round, he also had a fight with Edgar Chairez on the Contender Series, and he beat him. And Edgar Chairez is actually decent. And how did he actually beat Edgar Chairez? I want to know that now. Did he wrestle Edgar? Because if he wrestled him, then I'm definitely picking him. Where is this at? Edgar Chairez. Unanimous decision. He actually struck, but he did take him down 3 of 6 times. So he did implement the grappling, but he also did strike with him. Seeing that he also struck with Edgar Chairez makes me want to pick him even more, because Edgar Chairez actually has some decent boxing chops. So Clayton Carpenter, I think he's going to be able to mix the martial arts, be able to control on the cage, be able to strike. Lucas Rocha, he's a specialty move kind of guy. He throws a lot of like knees up the middle, a lot of like, in his fight, he threw like a fucking somersault kick, like the roll. Not like a rolling thunder, but like a handstand. You know what I'm talking about? Like people throw it all the time in like UFC 5. They like fucking it's so stupid. He threw that. He's a very unorthodox guy, but I think Clayton Carpenter might be able to slow him down a little bit. I don't know. I'm not fully sold on either of these dudes yet, mostly because they don't fight often, but also Lucas, I don't know. He's just kind of weird, but Clayton Carpenter, I'll pick him by, I think he'll be able to sub Lucas, even though Lucas is probably a black belt. I think he'll be able to sub Lucas Rocha in the second round. We move to Dan Argueta versus Cody Haddon. I'm going to go with Cody Haddon on this one. It's a little weird, though. Cody legit fought in August against Billy Brand on the Contender Series, and now he's fighting Dan Argueta. The thing is, though, this is short notice for both of these dudes, because the UFC's doing that now, where they just put on short notice fights because they fucking feel like it, I guess. I don't know why they do that. They did that last weekend as well with like Tim Means and Court McGee, but Dan Argueta's whole thing is wrestling. That is the thing that he is really good at. He also has one of the weirdest records in UFC history, 1-2-2, 2 no contests. But Dan Argueta, his main thing is the wrestling. His striking is very piss poor, and he strikes like a wrestler. He just kind of swings and throws for no reason. He levitates off the ground. He throws like Joaquin Buckley does, but without the like precision. He just like heaves his body at people. Cody Haddon, You know, he can wrestle himself on the Contender Series. He tried 4 takedowns on Billy Brand. He didn't complete most of them. He only got one of them. But it's still something in that mind of his where he's like, hey, I can wrestle a little bit. And Cody Haddon actually has some pop in his hands, and his striking actually looked pretty solid against Billy Brand. So, and his only loss is to Steve Erceg. You know what I mean? Like, this dude has only lost to, like, a solid guy ever. And does he have a 100% finish rate? It looks like he does. He does. He has a 100% finish win rate. The only time he lost was when Steve Erceg took him to a decision. All the other dudes he's knocked out or subbed. And he subbed Billy Brand. And the only guy that Billy Brand had lost to up to that point in his career was a younger Peyton Talbot. And I know that fight, a lot of people are weirded out by it for some reason. I forget if it's because they think it's an early stoppage or the bullshit surrounding it. But I think Cody Haddon's actually pretty legit. And I think we're going to see that a lot with the dudes coming off the Contender Series this season. A lot of them are really furnished. Most of them are younger. Cody Haddon's 26. This is going to be a hell of a debut for him. But I think he should be able to get past it. I think that Dan Argueta slows down. He does get tired. And I think Cody Haddon might be able to weather the storm that is Dan Argueta and be able to pick his shots well and, you know, be able to land some shit. I mean, Dan Argueta, it's kind of his thing now to kind of slow down and gas out and look even shittier on the feet. I think Cody Haddon's actually pretty solid. And I'm not saying Dan Argueta isn't solid. I think Dan Argueta is actually all right. But I think that his skill set just isn't fit for a guy like Cody Haddon, but something could go wrong maybe Dan Argueta is just way stronger than Cody and just dominates him the whole time. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Cody Haddon's wrestling chops are decent enough to withstand a Dan Argueta. And, yeah, I think that's about it. I think Cody Haddon, his striking is going to be significantly better than Dan's. And I think when Dan Argueta starts to slow down, those shots are coming in at not mock speed, and Dan Argueta doesn't get him out of there in the first round. I think that Cody's going to piece him up a little bit and TKO him late in the second round. We move to Julia Polastri versus Cory McKenna. I'm pretty sure this is short notice for Julia Polastri, but I'm going to go with her. I think that Cory McKenna is going to struggle to get takedowns on Julia, and Cory did get a takedown against Jacqueline Amarim, but I think that's mostly due to the fact that Jacqueline is confident enough in her abilities on the ground to pull guard and kind of be like, you can take me down. I'll get an armbar off my back. Julia actually looked pretty strong for strawweight, and she had a very competitive fight with Josephine Knudsen, which she was able to take down Josephine and dominate her for a little bit. And on the feet was the only part where she struggled, and even then she landed some stuff on Josephine. I like that, because I think Josephine Knudsen's actually pretty fucking good. You know, Cory McKenna, I love Poppins. She's so nice. You know, she did beat Cheyenne Vlismas. It's alright. It's an alright win. But she had to take her down. She had 9 minutes of control time against Cheyenne. I think she's going to struggle to take down Cory McKenna. I think this fight's going to look a lot like the Elise Reed performance from Cory McKenna, where Cory struggles to get takedowns, and it's mostly a stand-up fight, and she kind of just can't stand up with her, and, you know, because of her reach, her arms are so short, man. 58.5-inch reach, that's wild. And Cory is strong, you know, but I don't think Julia is going to allow herself to get bullied. Or maybe she does. She did kind of look like she didn't give a shit when she fought Josephine. She would get leg kicked and teeped to the body and be like, "Whoa!" But I think that Julia had a very cool performance on the Contender Series. She got a submission win over, who was it? Who did she get a sub win over? Fucking Patricia Aluas, you know, who's all right. I mean, she's 5'4", and she kind of dominated her with her grappling. So I think Julia Polastri is going to be able to even out the grappling just by defending takedowns. And Julia Polastri actually has some takedowns of her own. Maybe she's able to dominate Cory McKenna. Who knows? Cory's kind of a weird case as of right now. She's also super inactive. And Julia, seeing that she took this fight on short notice, I think she took the Josephine Knudsen fight on short notice as well. Seeing this, I think she's healthy. I think that she's just willing to fight. I think she likes to fight. and I like that. Cory McKenna, I think she's been struggling with some injuries, possibly. And, yeah, I think Julia Polastri is going to be able to defend takedowns, land a bit more on the feet, do more damage, that kind of thing. And even then, if it does get to the ground, Julia Polastri has submissions of her own. So, yeah. We move to Junior Tafa versus Sharaf. It's a weird fight. I'm going to go with Junior Tafa. Junior Tafa was replacing, I forget exactly who, against Chris Barnett. But since Chris Barnett apparently has suffered, he's kind of stuck in Florida due to Hurricane Milton, or his home might have been hit, which is terrible if true, and I wish him nothing but the best. Sharaf is stepping in. Sharaf is a little weird. He trains at Extreme Couture. He trains with some good people. There's sparring footage of him and like Luke Rockhold and stuff like that. But besides that, he has 6 MMA fights, 4 of which are pro MMA fights. And I think that he's never gone to the second round ever. He's undefeated. 3 minutes and 19 seconds, 4 minutes and 31 seconds, 9 seconds, a minute and 10 seconds. And then his amateur fights have a total fight time of a minute and 35 seconds. This dude's a first round merchant. He's got a lot of bad weight on him. And if I'm being honest, I can literally only watch one of Sean's fights. There is not a lot of tape on Sean. He's got a lot of bad weight on him. He looks pretty quick, though. He looks pretty quick for a heavyweight. His uppercut looks all right. But I think the difference is that Junior Tafa isn't a shitty striker like a lot of the guys that Sean is fighting. A lot of the guys Sean is fighting are older. 35 years old. What about Shattuck Kinkle, 34? Or Kindle? He's 0-3. Nathan Mullet doesn't even have his age on here, but he's 6'3", and he looks old as fuck. And then fucking Bruno Casillas was 1-4 when he fought him. He's 6-6 now, right? Bruno's he's 41. Also, he had a weird time where he didn't fight for a long time. He had a huge layoff from September 2021 to July 2023. He's been decently active since then. I just don't know enough about Sharaf. He's taking this extremely short notice. I think it's 5 days. Junior Tafa, I've seen him do decently well against a Muhammad Usman. I've seen him knock out Parker Porter. I've seen him stand up with Walter Walker, land some bombs on him, and then Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I don't think Sharaf is as good as any of those guys, so I'm just going to go with Junior Tafa. I'll go him by first round TKO. Sharaf looks like the only way that he can succeed is moving well on the front foot. He looks like he hits hard, but I think Junior Tafa is able to take a punch, and I'm almost certain Junior Tafa is just a step above in technical striking. A glory kickboxer versus a dude who's 4-0. I haven't seen anything else about this dude. Maybe I'm uncultured. Maybe this guy is like super popular for some reason, and I just don't know about it. But, yeah, Junior Tafa. We move to Themba Gorimbo versus Niko Price. I'm going to go with Themba Gorimbo by first round KO. Niko Price is shit, and I mean that wholeheartedly. I don't think Niko Price is all that good, especially as of recent. His chin has been failing him. The punches that Robbie Lawler knocked him out with might be some of the softest punches I've ever seen knock somebody out. He beat fucking Alex Morono, which is, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. I don't know. Prior to that, he got knocked out by Robbie, by Phil Rowe, by Vicente Luque. He got a doctor stoppage. Michel Pereira couldn't finish him, though. I think Themba Gorimbo hits hard, and I think he might be able to grapple with Niko Price. I think Themba could mix in the grappling a little bit. I've seen Niko Price get controlled. Also, Niko Price will be significantly slower than Themba and will gas out extremely quick. If this fight goes even past the first round, Themba Gorimbo might be able to sub him late or KO him early. I'll go with the KO early because I think that's what Themba will rise his stock with. But Themba also in his last fight didn't have a crazy performance against Ramiz Brahimaj, but it is what it is. maybe he just clinch controls Niko Price the whole time, which honestly, doing that to Ramiz is actually kind of mad impressive because Ramiz is kind of a grappler. So, who knows. But Themba, he's going to be faster. He's going to be able to hit harder. He will have the grappling edge. However Themba wants to win this fight is how Themba's going to win this fight. That's how this fight's going to go. We move to Jonathan Pearce versus Pat Sabatini. I'm going to go with Pat Sabatini on this one. And this could curse me. This fight's weird. I'll be the first to tell you. Jonathan Pearce and Pat Sabatini. Pat Sabatini's biggest weakness is his chin. Jonathan Pearce's biggest weakness is subs. Both of these guys do that pretty well. Jonathan Pearce, 9 of 14 wins by KO. Pat Sabatini, 12 of 18 wins. Or how many wins by sub does fucking Pat have? It's kind of nuts, isn't it? Yeah, 12 and then 5 decision wins. My big thing about this is Pat Sabatini isn't necessarily that dog shit on the ground or on the feet. He actually has landed some stuff, like in that Diego Lopez fight, up until the knockout, he actually was landing some stuff on good old Diego Lopez's chin. And Jonathan Pearce is big and gangly, he's kind of slower. Pat Sabatini does telegraph a lot of things, like his kicks especially. He throws this weird body kick that's just so disgustingly telegraphed. But his punches are actually alright. Like his 1s and 2s are pretty decent. And his takedown entries are alright. And Pat Sabatini, he hasn't fought in a while. It's coming up on a year. But he's been doing grappling matches. And Jonathan Pearce, he's been taken down in his UFC career. He has like a 58% takedown defense. Pat Sabatini as well has like a 50. But the thing is, Pat Sabatini's jiu-jitsu is really fucking good. And he's able to manipulate certain positions. His only 2 losses are to Damon Jackson and fucking Diego Lopez. It's like the Damon Jackson loss is gross because he gets knocked out in under a minute. But Jonathan Pearce isn't losing to any bad guys either, though. Like he's only, the Joe Lozon fight is kind of soy that he got knocked out in his guard. But then fucking Brito and Onama, like neither of these dudes are that bad. They're pretty solid. Yeah, I'll go with Pat. I keep going back and forth in my head because, I can just imagine Jonathan just, knocking him out because Pat is kind of, his chin is shit. But then I can also see Pat Sabatini being able to get to a dominant position on the ground and controlling him because Pat is really strong. Same with Jonathan. Jonathan's pretty strong on top control. But Pat can get reversals. I've seen Joe Anderson Brito reversal. Get a reversal on Jonathan Pearce. I've seen other dudes get reversals on Jonathan Pearce. So, both of these guys have had a lot of hype at one point. Jonathan Pearce had a lot of hype going into the Joe Anderson Brito fight, especially during it because he was actually having a lot of moments of success. Pat Sabatini had a lot of hype going into that Diego Lopez fight. For some reason, I don't know, he was a favorite. It's just, I don't think either of these guys can win. I think Pat will sub him, but Jonathan can also knock him out. Sprinkle cash on both betting. I don't think this fight's going to go to decision because both of these guys do have weaknesses and both of these guys have the strengths to exploit those said weaknesses, but I don't know. Fucking whatever. We move to the featured prelim, CJ Vergara versus Ramazan Temirov. I'm going to go with Ramazan Temirov by unanimous decision. This is a little tricky one because there isn't a lot of footage to work with Ramazan. There is a highlight reel on YouTube. There are some of his full fights. And to be honest, this guy could just be a highlight merchant because all of his finishes are in the first round. He has 3 unanimous decisions. His other 3 are by other decisions. The other 2 are just not documented. But one of them is a split. But or a majority, who gives a shit. This fight, Ramazan, in the one full fight that I watched against Michal Kuraju or whatever, I forget the dude's full name, but he looked actually pretty good. He has decent cardio. His main weapon is going to be that wide looping overhand right, and I think that it might be able to land on CJ Vergara, because CJ sometimes his hands do drop a little bit. He does like to keep them up, but then in some fights, like the Asu Amabea fight, he does drop them really low to defend takedowns. If Ramazan is able to put the idea of the takedown threat in CJ's head, which Ramazan does mix in takedowns, he's from fucking Uzbekistan. I assume he knows how to wrestle, and he does know how to wrestle, by the way. But he does keep it standing a lot of the time, and CJ hasn't shot a takedown in his UFC career yet, so most likely going to be a standing affair, but if Ramazan does feel ever slighted, he might shoot a takedown. CJ is tough, which is why I'm not picking Ramazan Temirov by first round KO or second round KO. I don't think he's going to be able to finish and knock out CJ, because CJ is tough. The only time that I really remember seeing him face like a shit ton of adversity where he's really hurt bad was against Daniel Lacerda, which is kind of like the story of a lot of Daniel Lacerda's fights, is he rocks the person he's fighting and then he kind of just like gets his ass whooped. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that Ramazan, he might be able to crack CJ, because it seems like a telltale sign that everyone gets hit by his overhand right in all of his fights. From what I've seen, he's dropped literally almost everybody he's fought with that wide looping right, especially early on in fights, because they're dry, they're, not super locked in. Some guys are out of focus, and he's so explosive and quick that I think it shocks a lot of people. And he's also fucking strong as shit. His physique for fucking flyweight is insane. He's got fucking guns and shoulders on him. I think that Ramazan's going to win. I do think that CJ Vergara can make it a close fight down the stretch, because Ramazan in that third round, he didn't throw as much. He was on the back foot a lot, which maybe CJ might be able to capitalize on. Maybe late in the second round, maybe he does a lot of damage. But I think that CJ Vergara, sometimes against his will, it gets into a lull of the action where he's just trying to find a shot. When CJ gets into a flow state, he's actually pretty decent. But sometimes he does have these lulls in the action. It reminds me of the dude that just fought in the Contender Series, Gauchi or whatever, who would have these very cool pocket boxing moments, and then he would just not throw anything for like 30 seconds. I think CJ Vergara is mostly like that, and that's a thing that happens with a lot of flyweights. I don't think CJ Vergara is going to push an insane pace on Ramazan Temirov to where he breaks and gasses out, even though his gas tank is still a little questionable because he hasn't gone 3 rounds against really high-level competition. But I do give him the benefit of the doubt across the distance just because of damage. I think he's going to be able to do a lot of damage to CJ Vergara, because CJ does get hit with like 5 strikes per minute. I don't think he's going to be able to get hit with 5 strikes per minute by Ramazan. He's going to get cracked. He might get dropped. Who knows? But yeah, I'll go Ramazan Temirov, unanimous decision. I will give CJ the benefit of the doubt that he wins the third round. I'll go 29-28. We move to the start of the main card. Abdul Razak Alhassan versus Josh Fremd. I'm going to go with Abdul Razak Alhassan against Josh Fremd. If I'm being totally honest, I don't really think Josh Fremd is all that good. And maybe he proves me wrong. I struggle to pick him in this matchup because of his UFC 10 year. It hasn't been the best to witness, and I think that Abdul might be able to corral Josh against the fence. It is the apex, so Josh Fremd, he is going to have a reach advantage. I know it says he only has a 3-inch reach advantage. That is mostly, Abdul's is mostly inflated due to his, stature, his width. Josh is going to be able to pepper him with some jabs. But Josh Fremd, that's basically all he really has on the feet is the jab. It's a lot of his weaponry is through his jab, and he throws leg kicks, right? Yeah. There's a lot of jabs, there's a lot of leg kicks. He'll go to the body here and there. I think Abdul might try and bulldoze Josh Fremd and wrestle him. And I say this because Abdul Razak Alhassan actually was able to out-wrestle Joaquin Buckley in the third round of their fight, which a lot of people tend to forget. In that fight, Abdul actually dominated Joaquin with the wrestling. He took him down 3 times. You know what I mean? And Joaquin did bank those first 2 rounds off of wrestling. I don't think Josh Fremd has good enough wrestling to bully an Abdul Razak Alhassan, if I'm being honest. That's how a lot of people beat Abdul, is by taking him down repeatedly, kind of smothering him. I don't think Josh Fremd has that in his arsenal. The only guy that Josh Fremd is able to take down in the UFC, I'm pretty sure, is Cedric Dumas, and that was in his debut and Cedric West is kind of poop. So, I think Abdul, maybe he also clips Josh Fremd. Josh Fremd has been knocked out twice. I know the one against Roman was with a body shot, but he also got knocked out by Gregory Rodriguez. And, a lot of the guys that Josh is losing to, Anthony Hernandez, Trayshawn Gore, Roman Kopylov, Andre Petrosky, they're all actually, decent dudes. And maybe he just, absolutely styles on Abdul Razak Alhassan. Maybe this is, a showing out performance from Josh Fremd. But I struggle to believe that because I just don't really believe in him all that much. So I'll go with Abdul Razak Alhassan. He has all wins by knockout, don't he? Yeah. I'll go unanimous decision, 29-28, maybe split. Both of these guys' gas tanks are a little shaky, but I'll go with Abdul Razak Alhassan. I think he'll be able to get it done across the distance. We move to Daniel Rodriguez versus Alex Morono. I'm going to go with Daniel Rodriguez. This is kind of a late edition of this card. This is pretty short notice for both. And the last time I saw Alex Morono take a short notice fight, he was actually kind of dying in the cage. So, I think the straight punches from both are going to work well. I think Daniel Rodriguez just has a little bit more pop. And Alex Morono's chin has always been kind of one of the weaker parts of his game. I think if Daniel Rodriguez just keeps this standing, he should be able to clip him, maybe hurt him. Maybe he doesn't finish Alex Morono because Daniel Rodriguez, when was the last time he even got a finish in the UFC? Was it fucking... It was fucking Preston Parsons in 2021. He's actually on a 3-fight losing streak to great guys, though. Not great guy. I mean, Neil Magny and Kelvin aren't great, but they're all right. I think Morono loses to both of those guys. One of my biggest problems with this fight, and I fucking pray that Daniel Rodriguez does not shoot a takedown. Because that is something that he sometimes does when he's getting corralled against the fence, and that's been Alex Morono. He's bouncing, and he tries to, pressure people. I mean, in the Neil Magny fight, he literally threw the fight away because he shot for a takedown and ended up getting darsed. Alex Morono has one of the deadliest guillotines for no reason. I don't know why his guillotine is so fucking good. It's just something that he's really good at. If Daniel Rodriguez shoots on Alex Morono, I guarantee you he's getting subbed. So if Daniel Rodriguez... Daniel... You listening, D-Rod? Don't shoot. Just keep it standing, all right? He's going to have the reach advantage. He's going to have the size advantage. I think that the speed advantage might be with Alex for the first round. But as the fight goes on, the advantage will go to Daniel Rodriguez throughout the whole fight. I think Daniel Rodriguez is just a little better on the feet. Alex is a little wild. He stands like a chicken. Daniel is a little more composed. He was able to land shots on, Kelvin Gastelum and Neil Magny. And I don't think that Alex Morono poses a threat other than awkwardness. He isn't as technical as those dudes, like Neil Magny, like Ian Gary, like a Kelvin Gastelum. He isn't technical like those guys. He's very awkward, which maybe does cause problems for Daniel Rodriguez. Who knows? But then again, Daniel Rodriguez, I've seen him beat up guys like Kevin Lee and be able to go toe-to-toe with Kelvin Gastelum. And Daniel Rodriguez has a good chin on him. Alex Morono not so much. So I think Daniel Rodriguez unanimous decision 30-27. I think he's just going to be able to hurt Alex Morono more and kind of give a bad visual for the judges. Maybe a late third round finish. But if Alex Morono wins, it's most likely going to be by submission. But I'm going to go with Daniel Rodriguez because fucking cool tattoos, dude. We move to Grant Dawson versus Rafa Garcia. I'm going to go with Grant Dawson on this one. It is a tough fight to pick, though. Rafa Garcia, one of my things I don't like about him is that he's been off for over a year now. He fought last April in 2023. We're coming up on, how long is that? Fucking 17 months layoff, basically, against Clay Guida. Not a huge fan of that. Rafa will have a striking advantage over Grant Dawson because Grant Dawson's striking is poop. But the wrestling is where it gets weird. I think Rafa Garcia's wrestling is pretty good. He seems very strong for lightweight because he is kind of a bigger lightweight. Not like height-wise, he's 5'7", but he is thick for 5'7". He's a very wide, not like even just like straight for like just like from the side point of view. He's like fucking, he's got a fucking wide body. And maybe that'll give him some I mean, he has a 79% takedown defense. But he's going up against Grant Dawson. Jesus Christ, Curtis Blades moment. But, you know, Grant Dawson, I've seen this dude control Marco Madsen for 10 minutes. A silver Olympic gold medalist. And then sub him. I've seen him control Damir Ismagulov for like 12 or 13 minutes. I saw him control Joe Solecki last June for fucking 14 minutes, essentially, of a 15-minute fight. He gets control time. It's just something he does. He trains with Dustin Poirier and Mateusz Gamrot. He trains out of that gym. What is that? That's not Extreme Couture, is it? Is that Extreme Couture? It's American Top Team. Forget what I just said. It's American Top Team. Jesus Christ, I'm not very smart. I never claimed to be smart. But I think that Grant Dawson just does certain things well. He has clinch takedowns. Like, I don't even think he needs to go for double legs against Rafa Garcia, because I think that's what Rafa's might be expecting. I think Grant Dawson might be able to get some clinch throws on Rafa Garcia. You know, he's going to go in there a little rusty. He will have the striking advantage, like I said, but Rafa Garcia is also kind of slow for lightweight because he is so bulky. He is not really all that fast. I think if Grant Dawson's able to slow this fight down, Rafa will be even slower, and I think that this is going to be a weird comeback fight for him. Rafa is on a win streak, but I don't see him beating Grant Dawson. I've seen Grant Dawson beat guys that I think are better than Rafa Garcia in way dominant fashion. So I'll go Grant Dawson 30-27. Maybe Rafa Garcia banks around off of damage because Grant Dawson doesn't really do a lot of damage. But the thing is, when people get taken down by Grant Dawson, they can't really do anything. And the big thing about Grant Dawson earlier in his career in the UFC, everyone was like, dude, his gas tank is shit. He's fixed that issue. You know, the Ricky Glenn fight, he really gassed out. I mean, he controlled Damir Ismagulov for fucking 13 minutes. Joe Solecki for 14 of a 15-minute fight, both 15-minute fights. You know, this guy gets control time. It's his thing. And I think he'll be able to control Rafa Garcia. We move to the featured fight. Chidi Njokuani versus Jared Gooden. I'm going to go with Chidi. I'll go with Chidi Njokuani. It is a tough fight. Like, there are a lot of weird matchups on this card. Jared Gooden can definitely win this fight. He is pretty solid. His UFC record and record in general don't speak to how actually decent he is. He is a heavy finisher. That is his thing. He has like 19 wins by finish, 11 of which KO, 8 of which submission. I think that Chidi Njokuani is just a little bit more technical than him, and I think Chidi Njokuani's actually looked all right as of recent, especially in the Rhys McKee fight. And I know Rhys McKee is pretty shit, but, you know, he's had really high moments of success like over Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, Gregory Rodriguez, and Albert Duraev. And you can argue he should have probably won the Albert Duraev fight. I forget how I scored it. I think 29-28 either way was the way a lot of people scored it, was either to Chidi or Albert, 29-28. Albert, the big thing with Chidi is he has a a suspect gas tank. Holy shit, I couldn't get that out. And his takedown defense, or just his ground game in general, has always kind of been the way that people have beat him, because he is a he is kind of like a kickboxer most of the time, but he's actually improved his takedown defense pretty well. He has a 74% takedown defense, so this is most likely going to be a striking affair for as long as it lasts. I think that Jared Gooden is good. He has a lot of power on the feet. That is very well known. I think Jared Gooden, he keeps his left hand down low. His right hand is by like his neck and chin, but his left hand is always down low. And I don't like that against a guy like Chidi Njokuani, who has great jabs and a great straight right hand and knees. And he's an orthodox fighter, so you know that head kick and body kick are going to be fucking screaming at Jared Gooden. I think Chidi Njokuani might chin Jared Gooden because that's the only two ways that he has been finished is by KO. Who KO'd him again? Yeah, it was Impa and then the fucking Bruno guy, right? Yeah, Bruno Oliveira. I mean, Wellington Turman, who is pretty good. Don't get me wrong. Willington is all right. He was rocking Jared Gooden and landing a lot of anything that he was striking, and also leg kicks. I was almost not going to mention them. Chidi Njokuani throws a lot of leg kicks. Jared Gooden is there to get leg kicked. It's kind of his thing. His lead leg, he feints in and out. So does Chidi Njokuani. Chidi's always going to be feinting. He's going to tear up that lead leg of Jared Gooden, hopefully, if my pick is correct. And maybe he hits him with like a straight right hand. Maybe he throws a bunch of leg kicks. Maybe Jared Gooden starts, going down and biting on him, and then he throws it up high and knocks him out. So I'll go Chidi Njokuani. I'll go second round KO. We move to Brad Tavares versus Jun Young Park. I'll go with the Iron Turtle. When this fight originally happened, or was supposed to happen at, Vegas 93, I picked Jun Young Park. I didn't make the video because on weigh-in day, the fight got scrapped, so I had to edit the whole video and take this part out. I think Jun Young Park, from what I remember of my portion, I said that Jun Young Park, he wins this fight based on pressuring Brad Tavares, mixing it up, threatening the takedown. He probably won't take down Brad Tavares, but he just has to pressure Brad Tavares against the cage. It's a smaller cage. He'll be able to do so. Brad Tavares possibly is a little bit more technically better than Jun Young Park, like technically speaking, but I think Jun Young Park has that. When you pressure somebody, you make them a bit tired. Everyone gets worse when they're tired. That's kind of how it happens. Maybe Jun Young Park gasses him out a little bit, then starts to get takedowns, or pressures him, gets clinch control, is just able to control him. Jun Young Park, in his last fight against Andre Muniz, lost because of the grappling. That's been kind of something that happens with Jun Young Park, is in most of his losses, it's him getting taken down and controlled. I don't think Brad Tavares is going to be able to take down and control Jun Young Park. I just don't really see that happening. Brad Tavares, he's been on kind of a weird streak right now of getting KO'd, which is not really like him. In his last 4 fights, he's lost 3 of them. His last one was fucking Chris Weidman, and then the fight before that was fucking Omari Akhmedov, who is just, not good. He's alright, but he isn't great. And then Antonio Carlos Jr. This dude's in the PFL. So both of those dudes are now in the PFL. He has a weird thing where his chin was really good for the longest time, and then he just started getting chinned. Like Gregory Rodriguez, Bruno Silva, that loss has aged like fucking milk. Now, Dreykus, that win has aged good, and he didn't get finished by Dreykus, but he did get, out cardioed in that fight, which is why I think Jun Young Park's going to win this fight. I think Jun Young Park has decent cardio. I think he's going to be able to push a pace on Brad Tavares, push him back. When Brad Tavares is getting walked down, he is significantly worse than when he's walking forward, controlling the pace himself. I think Jun Young Park, Brad Tavares throws leg kicks. Maybe Jun Young Park was able to counter them by getting a hold of him and holding a body lock and controlling him against the fence. I think Brad Tavares is on the decline. He's 36 years old. He's taken a shit ton of damage in his career. Jun Young Park is 33, a bit younger, hasn't taken as much damage. And I think that he's just going to be able to, again, pressure him, use his jabs, get into range. He doesn't have a significant reach disadvantage like against Andre Muniz, which is like the jab of Andre Muniz is like the only success dude had on the feet. So I think Jun Young Park, again, pressuring, controlling the cage, cutting it off, just putting a pace on Brad Tavares, making him a bit slower, being able to mix the martial arts, get the clinch control, maybe take him down. He probably won't take down Brad, but get him tired, make him worse, hit him, win a decision, 29-28. You know how it is. We move to the main event, Brandon Royval versus Tatsuro Taira. I'm picking Tatsuro Taira. I'm picking the boy. I've seen this dude's whole UFC career. He's been a confident pick every single fight of his. I don't think this is going to be an easy fight for him. I see a lot of people thinking that Tatsuro is going to dominate Brandon Royval. I'm a humongous Tatsuro Taira fan. He's probably in my top 5 dudes right now. I think this fight can be very tricky for him. And honestly, Brandon Royval can win this fight. He definitely can. Royval has always been kind of tricky to work with. And Brandon Royval does do some things that I think can give Tatsuro Taira fits. For one, Brandon Royval does have really solid scrambles. Tatsuro Taira, of course, is a very well-endowed grappler. He has great jiu-jitsu. But Brandon Royval, especially at the higher level against like Pantoja and Morono, has shown insane scrambling skills. And so has Tatsuro Taira. Tatsuro Taira can't really be controlled on the ground either. But Brandon Royval, he's always constantly doing something. And that's something that I think can give Tatsuro Taira fits. Because Tatsuro Taira, he always wants it to be a very complex, strict chess match of kickboxing. He's always trying to, play a calculated. You can't do that against Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval is always throwing something. Against Morono at elevation, he threw fucking 550-something strikes. That's fucking nuts. Now, were most of them shitty jabs that he was just like, ha, yeah, just like throwing out? Because Brandon Royval does not have, like, punching power. Like, his hand power isn't very good. His knees and elbows are, though. That's kind of his thing. He sets you up with the hands. He kicks you. His kicks are really good, especially his low leg kicks. But he does get his leg kicks caught and his body kicks because he does kind of telegraph them and he kind of throws them. And also he shuffles a lot. He's always shuffling Brandon Royval. And I think Brandon Royval, he runs into range, and I think that's where Tatsuro Taira can get him. And Brandon Royval, even though he does scramble, I think Tatsuro Taira is a better scrambler than Brandon Royval. Even though his scramblings can cause fits early, I think Tatsuro Taira might be able to figure it out a little bit better because Tatsuro Taira, the gym he trains at, and the dudes we're seeing from Japan, like Rei Saruya, their scrambling skills, they always end up in a dominant position, always. They usually always do. And Tatsuro Taira, Brandon Royval has only been submitted once. I think we're going to see it happen again. I think Tatsuro Taira might be able to get an RNC on Brandon Royval. I think he might be able to get the back. And on the feet, Brandon Royval, he does get hit with some straight punches. Tatsuro Taira, I think, is deceptively strong and lengthy for flyweight. You see him, he's 5'7", but then you see his arms. He has his lead hand outstretched. He has very long arms for flyweight, and his back is fucking huge. Tatsuro Taira is kind of a fucking unit and specimen for flyweight whenever you watch him fight, and he just gets bigger. He's on steroids. He's not on steroids, but I think Tatsuro Taira, the Alex Perez fight, he did have some struggles on the feet. And I think the difference, though, is that Alex Perez has punching power and he does really well in the pocket. Brandon Royval really tries to, land at range. Alex Perez wasn't landing at range for one. His reach is smaller and he's more of a pocket striker. And Brandon Royval, I think Tatsuro Taira does fine at range with people. It's not like he's getting peppered by everybody. The problems you'll see him, like in the Edgar Chairez fight, for example, is in the pocket exchanges where he got dropped with the left hook. That's where he's going to have problems. Brandon Royval isn't really a pocket presence. He's more jab your face, jab your face, jab your face, leg kick, strike at range, jab your face, shuffle in, shuffle out. He's more like that. And I think Tatsuro Taira can be just fine doing that. Or maybe he won't. Maybe Brandon Royval is able to break the code that is Tatsuro Taira and fraud check him. This isn't a fraud check, by the way. I see some people saying like, oh, it's a fraud check. This isn't a fraud check. This is just This is Tatsuro Taira fighting the number one contender. If he loses, it's to the number one guy. You know what I mean? I think Tatsuro Taira, he has decent boxing. His striking actually is looking more solid and solid every single fight. Against Alex Perez, his straight punches actually look very good. His tie clinch looked really good, and that's another thing. Brandon Royval will find himself falling into clinch positions because he throws kicks in boxing range, and he usually gets his kicks caught, and he goes into the clinch. Tatsuro Taira might be able to find some knees to the body in the clinch, knees to the face, maybe trips in the clinch as well, which is where I think that he's going to succeed very well, is the clinch and on the ground. I think Tatsuro Taira was going to find a rear naked choke in the second round. Brandon Royval maybe throws a kick, gets it caught, gets tripped, tries to scramble out, gets his back taken, because Tatsuro Taira has a mean back take, and he does very weird shit when he gets the back. Like the Alex Perez position where he's shifted off to the side, he fucking leaned all the way back. He's very smart on the ground. Brandon Royval sometimes does struggle, he does scramble, but sometimes he does do certain things where he's just trying to get to his feet. But Tatsuro Taira is very calculated with it whenever it gets to the ground, and I think that's going to be the downfall of Brandon Royval in this fight. Brandon Royval can definitely win. It is shocking to me that he is such a big underdog. What is he again? Is he a plus 280? Plus 210? That is shocking to me. I don't think this fight should be that big of a margin. I'm honestly shocked it isn't like a pick'em fight. It is cool to see that Tatsuro Taira is getting a lot of love. He is, of course, the boy. I think he beats Alexandre Pantoja. He has to get through Brandon Royval first, and this is a tough fight for him. it can be tough. I don't think it's going to be completely easy. I think that he will face some adversity. I think Brandon Royval has a very solid chance at winning this fight, too. Like, the way I'm explaining it makes it seem that Tatsuro Taira is going to dominate him. Brandon Royval can be in his face all I'm coming for you all night, John. I'm coming for you all night, Tyron. I'm going to be in your face all night, T-Wood. I'm going to be coming in your face all night, T-Wood. He's going to be in Tetsuro's grill for the whole fight. And maybe Tatsuro Taira, he hasn't gone 5 rounds fully. Like, he's been scheduled for 5-round fights before, but he's never gone to, 5-round decisions. He's only gone 3-round decisions. And, maybe this is the fight that does it. Maybe his cardio isn't as good. But, I will pick Tatsuro Taira, though, to win. I'm UFC Thoughts. These have been my picks and breakdown for every fight on UFC Vegas 98. Royval vs. Taira on October 12th, 2024. My confident picks reside with Themba Gorimbo, Ramazan Temirov, and in the main event, Tatsuro Taira. My pre-card rating is a 6 out of 10. This card's alright. There are some fights that I am looking forward to, especially Royval Taira. I do think that this main event, for as long as it lasts, maybe it goes the full 5 rounds, will be very entertaining to watch, just based on the approach that both these guys go at it. You got some other fights on here like Chidi and Njokuani, Jared Gooden, Brad Tavares, Junior Park, the debut of Ramazan Temirov, which should be entertaining. Jonathan Pearce, Pat Sabatini is an interesting matchup. You got Junior Tafa on here, Cody Haddon, and then Clayton Carpenter, Lucas Rocha. That fight can be pretty fun. I do think that this card will be good. But it is in the Apex, which kind of dials it down a notch, and there is only one ranked fight, so I do like these cards because it's usually the lower, viewed cards that usually do pretty well. And the last time Tatsuro Taira fought his card against Alex Perez, that card was kind of shit. So I think this one is the bounce back for Tatsuro Taira. I think this card's going to be all right. It should be fun. I'll try and get some videos out for you guys. I saw that Carlos Pratas has a main event at UFC Vegas 100. I was getting worried because that card didn't have a main event. He's fighting Neil Magny, so that one should be fun. But, I'll see you guys after the fights with my recap. Peace.